statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Boom. All right, traders, Bitcoiners. Welcome to another live session with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez. I'm going to talk Bitcoin here a little bit on this fine Saturday afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. But welcome, you're all welcome, whether you are a Bitcoiner or a Bitcoin negator, denier, whether you're a trader or whether you're anybody, guys. Everybody's welcome. Haters, supporters, subscribers, followers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I also encourage that you, in addition to grabbing a beverage of your choice, grab something to maybe take notes with, and also bring your questions. Any questions you have, I'd like to try to help address. I do want to start off our talk by reminding everyone here that by no stretch of the imagination do I believe I am a Bitcoin expert. But what I have been, I'm quite the opposite, guys. I'm a Bitcoin baby. But what I have done over the past 5 years is spend thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours diving as deep as I possibly can down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I believe I've done enough hours of study, investigation. I've done more than your average individual. And because of that, I might at times be able to offer something that might resonate with you, that might be important to you. But a Bitcoin expert, I am not. All right. So I do want to preface any talk that I have with that. Now, before I actually delve into the topic today, I'd always like to make sure we've got at least about 200 or 300 people logged on. This gives the talk its best start so that the vast majority of people don't miss the initial comments that are made. All right. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, why don't you let me know where you're piping in from? Where are you coming in from? I know we always draw an international audience here. So I am piping in from Colombia, Medellin, Colombia. Where are you coming in from? What country, what city, what corner of the world are you coming in from? I see Georgia is in the house. Welcome, Georgia. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Where else? France is in the house. Chile is in the house. Wow. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Poland is in the house. I love it. Madrid, one of my favorite cities, is in the house. Welcome, Madrid. Awesome. Okay. Nigeria is in the house. Kansas City is in the house. Love it. Love it. Love it, guys. I love it. Welcome. Guatemala is in the house. Welcome, Guatemala. All right. Fantastic, guys. As always, international audience, people piping in from all over the world. And so, good. We've got about India. Welcome, India as well. Puerto Rico, India, Norway. Wow. Nice. All right. Chicago. All right, guys. So, look, today's talk was, like many talks, I guess, encouraged by frequent comments I receive, largely on my Bitcoin-oriented post on X.com, right? And what spurred this topic of every buy is also a sell. What spurred this topic was 2 recent posts. I'll show you what these 2 posts were. And the comments that were that I received as a result of these two posts. So the first one is a post that I actually have pinned at the top of my X.com page. If you're not following me on X.com, guys, which is the social media medium that I specifically use for Bitcoin only content, you should be. But anyway, I posted this yesterday where I reminded people that BlackRock, in a very short period of time, has acquired almost 360,000 Bitcoin, becoming, as an entity, one of the largest holders of Bitcoin in the world. It accomplished this, or did this, in a few short months. This is epic. This is actually mind-blowing. All right. The USD denominated value of this Bitcoin currently at the time of this post was roughly $23 billion. All right. Now, for those of you who need to be, most of you may not need to be reminded of this, but I will say that BlackRock is the largest money manager on planet Earth. And now they are one of the largest holders of Bitcoin on planet Earth. They're not the largest, but they're one of the largest. What is epic about this is the short period of time during which they have become one of the largest holders of Bitcoin on planet Earth. All right. This is very, very significant. Now, I also recently, this morning, shared a post from Fred Krueger, and I'll go to that here to show you. In this post, Fred Krueger is telling us, if you can see that, he's telling us that ETFs bought 7,526 Bitcoin today. That was as of yesterday. So yesterday, all the ETFs combined bought 7,526 Bitcoin. That is incredible. MicroStrategy bought 7,000 Bitcoin a week ago. Now, put this in context of the fact that only 450 new Bitcoin are issued by the Bitcoin network every single day. And we're talking about entities gobbling up thousands upon thousands when the spigot, do you understand? The Bitcoin spigot is spitting out only 450. Now, I want you to see this comment that was one of many that helped spur the topic that I want to delve into with you today. All right, I'm going to show you this. So this person basically states, and it's a good statement. I don't know if you can see that, but this person states nearly $5 billion new purchases from ETFs. I think his numbers are off. It's more actually, but anyway, from ETFs, and price doesn't move. 1%. What is happening? Very confusing. If the same was the sell figures, price would have gone down by 4%. All right. Let's talk about this. I responded here, but I'm going to give you a more direct response that I can delve into a little bit. And I think this is going to serve as a great primer and reminder for people. Okay, give me a second here. It's important to not forget one fundamental fact, people. This is something that most novices fail to really comprehend. They fail to comprehend that every single buy in the market is also a corresponding sell. How can you buy without someone selling it to you? And it's almost as if your general public, especially if they're not familiar with how financial markets work, they feel that buying can be one-sided or selling is one-sided. There can never be a lopsided buy and sell. So when you see these news articles or these posts that basically are revealing the fact that, wow, ETFs bought 7,500 Bitcoin, right? That's true. But there's also 7,500 Bitcoin that was sold to them. And so there is an equilibrium in every single transaction. It's not as if you can buy 7,500 and there's no corresponding sell and it just goes up because there's just simply demand. Every buy is also a sell. And so a lot of buying is also a lot of selling. A lot of selling is also a lot of buying. Do you understand this? And if you understand this, you will not fall for this trap of believing that simply because an article focuses on one side of that double-sided transaction, oh, ETFs bought 7,500. They're not telling you or focusing on the fact that, well, somebody sold it to them. Somebody also sold 7,500 to them. And there's always equilibrium in every transaction. Every transaction is made up of both sides. All right? So here is what is the real important thing. It is who are the buyers versus the sellers. Who's selling versus who's buying. Not that there's a lot of buying. You can't have a lot of buying more than you have selling. You can't. It's impossible. These ideas that, oh, there's more buying than selling. How can there ever be more buying than selling? How? Because you have to sell. You have to have a sell in order for somebody to buy. You can't ever have more selling than buying, ever. Because in order to sell, someone has to be willing to buy from you. So these generalized ideas or concepts are absolutely asinine. They're wrong. There is no such thing as more buying than selling, more selling than buying. They're always equal. The thing that matters is who's the buyer right now versus who's the seller. Do you understand? BlackRock is a buyer. You are a seller. Now that's important. You're the people on Coinbase reading articles, getting nervous. They're the sellers. BlackRock's the buyer. The buying and selling is equal. So the price at this moment will not be truly affected. The quality of who's buying versus selling is what matters, but it matters more in the future, not this moment. Buying and selling does not really affect this moment. The quality of whose hands is the merchandise being placed in, whose hands are letting it go. Which side of that double-sided equation, buyers and sellers, which side is the smart money? And that eventually has a material effect on the price. Now, how does the quality of your buyer versus the quality of your seller have an effect on the price in the future? It's the level of diamond-handedness that changes the nature of the underlying asset. So let me try to explain this as clearly as I possibly can. Okay? If the person who has the item, Bitcoin, needs to survive, needs to live his life with what comes from this item, this person is likely to be a quick seller of the item because they actually need this item to do something to actually live their life. Or if the person with this item is a nervous Nelly who's looking for a quick gain, and if he doesn't get the quick gain, he's going to get rid of it. That's one type of holder of the asset. If that nervous Nelly who's looking for a quick gain and the gain's not coming fast enough and they sell, or the person who says, I got a little tiny gain, I need this to live my life, they sell. That's one type of holder of the asset. If the nervous Nelly or the person who needs this to live gives it to Oliver Velez, so they sell and Oliver Velez takes the item, I don't need it to live. I am not a nervous Nelly. A little pump to the upside doesn't mean anything to me. That is not what I'm looking for. So what has happened? An equal transaction has happened from the nervous Nelly's Bitcoin giving up his Bitcoin to Oliver Velez. The quality of the hands now that holds that Bitcoin is completely different. There is zero effect on the price right now, but the implications of me now holding that Bitcoin will never see the light of day again, ever. Not in your lifetime, not in my lifetime. It will never see the light of day again. It will never be available on the market again. It will never be for sale again. It is removed from the market, affecting the overall availability of Bitcoin down the line. Do you understand? And as this happens, as there is a transition from people who have no idea what this is, and they give it up to the Oliver Velez's of the world, to the BlackRocks of the world, to the Fidelities of the world. Do you understand me? To the Michael Saylors of the world, to the MicroStrategies of the world, the people that don't let this go. As that transition from bozos to the nervous Nellies, to the people who need to survive because they're still at the lower level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They need everything for their food, their shelter, their clothing. They're still at that level, so they can't hold on to anything. To the people who are looking for a quick gain and out, over time, this asset gets transferred to a different type of holder. And let me just say this. The asset itself, the asset's qualities, the asset's characteristics take on the characteristics of the holders of the asset. And so as more Oliver Velez's grab hold of the asset and never let it go, it becomes scarcer, more limited in availability, but over time, the demand for this disappearing asset increases, and that's what causes your asset to moon. It is not the equal transactions right now. It is the removal over time of the supply and the availability by changing the nature of who is holding the asset. Michael Saylor's not going to sell his Bitcoin to you because it pumps 10%, 20%. Oliver Velez is not going to sell it if it even doubles. Not going to happen. And so an old Warren Buffett, I have to attribute this to Warren Buffett. An old Warren Buffett says something to the effect that the market is, how does it go? It's literally, wealth is transferred from the impatient to the patient. Basically, the impatient are your sellers of this. the impatient, the fact that Bitcoin is the best performing asset on the entire planet Earth this year, the fact that Bitcoin is the best performing asset on the entire Earth over the past 2 years, the fact that it is not enough for these impatient people. So true wealth is simply the transfer of the item from the impatient to the patient. Do you understand? And it is the side effect down the line for that is number go up. People think that the activity now should create something. It doesn't. It's the nature of the transfer that creates a future price explosion upward or to the downside. This also works in reverse, guys. If the nature of the sellers and buyers change, for instance, if at a certain point your real strong hands decide that they want to rebalance or they want to pare down their holdings, or their view has changed, and you have a scenario where it is the real solid holders that are now the ones letting the asset go, and the hands that are now grabbing it from them are also weak, impatient hands that are looking for a quick pop, then you'll have a future price dynamic that skews to the downside. It is never the activity now. It is never the buying and selling now. It's the nature of who's the buyer, who's the seller. Every single time you see something like ETFs gobbled up, $1 billion in Bitcoin today, you should immediately, what I want you to do is to immediately say, damn, somebody sold $1 billion of Bitcoin to these guys. Who's that? Always think the other side. If you hear or see an article or some post that says, wow, there were, bears came out in full force and sold X number of Bitcoin today. The German government just sold 50,000 Bitcoin over the past 2 weeks. You hear things like that. All right. The first thing I think is the other side. Somebody bought 50,000 of Germany's Bitcoin. Who's that? Who stepped up to the plate and gobbled that shit up? I'm always thinking the other side. That's what a professional market participant does. Who's the other side of this? When you buy something, someone is stepping up to the plate to sell it to you. Who is that someone? Who's the smarter one? Is it you? Or is it the person or entity on the other side of you? You see, I've lived my life living with this mindset. Who's on the other side? And trying to decipher which of those sides is smarter. Now, if you see ETFs, ARK Invest, BlackRock, largest money manager in the world, Fidelity, another one of the largest money managers and asset holders in the world. You see things like Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy gobbling up Bitcoin. And then, so those are the buyers, all right, amongst many others, with Oliver Velez, those are the buyers. And then you have to say, okay, who's selling? Because they're the buyers. Or who's on the other side of them? That's probably somebody you know. That's somebody's negative post you're reading on X or Facebook somewhere. And so when you start to judge that, wait a minute, BlackRock's buying, Fidelity's buying, MicroStrategy's buying, Oliver's buying. But here's this guy on X.com with 350,000 followers talking about how Bitcoin is going to go to 3,000. They're the sellers. Or here's this pimple-faced dude on YouTube that can only speak negative about Bitcoin and how it's topped and double topped and triple topped, whatever. Those people, that's your sellers. So when I start to judge this and say, wait a minute, Oliver's buying, BlackRock's buying, Fidelity's buying, this and that, but these bozos are the sellers to them. Because I don't hear about the level of selling being of quality. I don't see quality. You don't hear quality sellers, right? You hear BlackRock, Fidelity, Oliver Velez, Michael Saylor, but where's the quality of which you hear on the sell side? You don't see quality on the sell side right now. You might 2 years down the line, maybe, I don't know. But right now, you have to judge the quality of what you see because the sides are equal. Buying and selling is equal, but quality tells you the next direction. Which side, buy side or sell side, has the quality? Now you know the future. Do you understand that this is the key to knowing knowing with great odds what the future price is going to, what direction the future price is going on? It is not by how much is bought and sold, because that's always equal. Every buy is a sell. It's where's the quality? What side is the quality on? What side's the smart money on? And listen, I grew up in a very religious home, all right? And I know that in the Bible that I was compelled to read every single day of my life. I know that in this Bible, David beat Goliath, all right? Which is an amazing story. But I am telling you, when it comes to financial markets, people, Goliath wins. Do you understand me? Goliath wins. So what I'm saying is, where's the Goliath? That is what I want. That is adopting a professional mindset and not falling for these novice narratives. Well, something's wrong with Bitcoin because all of this buying and the price doesn't move. It's like, wow, this is a lack of understanding of how the basics of market, that every buy is a sell. So understand that quality, Goliath, where's Goliath? Where's the smart money? Where's the big money? What side is that one? And it's clear what that one is. It's clear. So we have a glimpse into the future, price, direction. We have an edge in being able to decipher which side is the quality on. That now gives us an edge in terms of knowing what the price in the future, what direction the future price is going to be. So in essence, guys, when the buyers are not quick sellers and they remove the supply, when moments of demand spikes happen, that kicks the price off. So you'll have these moments that spur that mushroom demand, right? The demand just explodes. But remember, over time, these strong hands have been removing the supply, making it unavailable. So that mushroom in demand, some event kicks off a mushroom in demand. Now the supply is not there in sufficient amounts to meet that demand, and boom, that's what creates your price explosion and your supply crunch. The actual removing of the supply does not have an immediate effect. This is the point I'm trying to explain to you. There is no immediate effect for a buy that is removing Bitcoin off exchange in cold storage for 10 years. There's no immediate effect there because the other side is equal. The seller is equal. What removing it does is produce a supply crunch later when there is a sudden explosion in demand. And these explosion in demands will come and spike up forever. Forever. Does in every single asset. All right? Tell me if you understand this. Right? Tell me if you understand what I'm trying to communicate to you. That every buy is a sell. And that does not create an immediate effect. That the effect is created. Your price is influenced by who's the buyer and seller. Right? Got it? Good. And your job is to determine, okay, the buyers and sellers are equal, but they're equal in terms of number, because buying and selling can't ever be unequal, but are they equal in terms of quality? And if they're not, then which side is the quality on? And that's the side you bet with. All right? And that's the side who's going to determine what the future price is for the most part. I've never been a seller of BTC. I've never been either, Nagesh. So welcome to the club. I don't sell. You don't sell the Mona Lisa. But Oliver, I need to fill up my gas tank. How do I do that? You don't sell the Mona Lisa. I don't. Find another way. But Oliver, I need my Captain Crunch cereal. I like that every day. Don't sell the Mona Lisa for Captain Crunch cereal. Sorry. You don't sell the Mona Lisa. When's the last time you've seen the Mona Lisa sold? You don't sell the Mona Lisa. Right? You go find another way, but you don't sell the Mona Lisa. All right? Bitcoin's the Mona Lisa of the world today. All right. That's right. You sell the Mona Lisa for Bitcoin. I like that. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Makes sense when you zoom out to longer time frames. Absolutely, of course. Listen, most people tend to overestimate the tiny short term, and they underestimate the long term. And this is why the majority of people don't have wealth, sustainable wealth, because wealth does not exist in the short term. It doesn't live there. Do you understand? And so most people are living a short-term life. Everything is in a short term. Everything in their life exists in a short time span. Their attention is short. Their desires are short. Their wants and desire, everything is short. They get bored quickly. Their whole life is a short-term life. It guarantees a life of being poor, because wealth lives outside of the short-term time frame. It doesn't reside there. And so you have to find ways to leave the short-term window and start living a lower time preference life, a patient life, where Warren Buffett says wealth is simply the transfer of money from the impatient to the patient. And wealth is where the patient live. Wealth is where maturity and time live. Low time preference. That is where wealth lives. And we have over glamorized and over glorified the give it to me now mentality. And Bitcoin does not reward the short-term time frame mentality. It doesn't. It actually is detrimental to that time frame. It almost becomes an enemy to that time frame. It is a destroyer of those who have that mindset. You know, your goal should be with Bitcoin. If I can get you to hold Bitcoin, to just be an accumulator of Bitcoin, like Warren Buffett was an accumulator of Coca-Cola stock for decades. If I could get you to be a constant accumulator of Bitcoin, irrespective of the price, if I could get you to make sure that you have more Bitcoin every quarter of your life, every 3 months of your life, you ensure that I am more Bitcoin rich today than I was 3 months ago. If I can get you to do that for 3 cycles, right? Now, what's 3 Bitcoin cycles? It's 12 years. But Oliver, I've only got 12 minutes. Sorry. If I can get you 12 years, guys, 12 years, then if I can get you to do that and say, then every single issue you think you have in your life now goes away. Every single problem that you think you have in your life now goes away. If you do this, that wealth beyond your wildest imagination is yours. Every desire on planet Earth is yours. Everything you want, everything you've ever dreamed of, it's yours. All you got to do is make sure you're more Bitcoin wealthy every quarter for 4 cycles. I believe that what I'm saying will happen before 4 cycles. I'm being extra conservative. Do you understand? But you won't do it. You won't. Most of you will not do that. Most of you will fall by the wayside. Most of you will give up. Most of you will deny the Savior in moments of panic. You will deny the Savior when you feel scared or fearful, or the USD denominated price is bearing down on you and is whispering in your ear. While the USD, it is not Bitcoin going down, by the way, it's USD showing you a picture of Bitcoin going down and the US dollars whispering in your ear. Now, what do you think about your little tiny, internet magic money? Now, what do you think of Bitcoin? Look at what it's doing. But it's the US dollar showing you a picture. Bitcoin is not showing you a picture. You are Bitcoin richer every quarter. The US dollar wants to show you a lie in a way. All right. So you will fall prey to the devil, the US dollar, whispering in your ear, look at the price, look at the price. Now, what are you going to do? Look at your life disappearing. Look at your wealth disappearing. Look at Most of you will give in to that. Most of you will let the Mona Lisa go. Most of you will be tricked. Most of you will be too fearful. Most of you will still be trapped in the idea that the US dollar is more important than Bitcoin. That most of you will not get to the place where you understand that Bitcoin is more valuable than the US dollar. I don't care what the US dollar, why should I care what the weak says about the strong? I am not going to believe what the weak says about the strong. I'm going to believe what the strong says about the weak. But if I could get you to do it, that is what I would do. That is what I'm trying to do. And so some people, when I tell them this, some people say, well, Oliver, so you mean that after 4 cycles I can sell? And then I said, yeah, you can sell. Even though I know that by the time, if you have lived through 4 cycles, you won't sell. You will have gained the understanding that you don't sell the Mona Lisa. Sell for what? What do you sell the most valuable thing on earth for? What do you sell it for? The 17th most valuable thing? Oh, that's a good trade. I'm going to sell number 1 for number 17. That's a good trade. What do you sell? Something that is mathematically designed to increase your life, your riches, your wealth, who you are, what you are, every 4 years to death and beyond. What do you sell that for? And nothing is that. What do you sell that for? What do you sell away your future for? What is your future increase worth today? All right. Now, yes, there are things in life that I think can come up health-wise. Mothers, I think, are more important than this. Health, I get it. I'm not talking about those things. I'm just talking about everything else. You will not get me selling the most valuable thing on planet Earth in short order, guys. At 170,000, Bitcoin is more valuable than every single thing on earth outside of gold. At 900,000, it's more valuable than gold. Right? It's going there. So ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, Bitcoin is already, it's a given that it's going there. It's going to 170 probably in less than a year. I don't know why this does this. It's going in less than a year. Bitcoin's the second most valuable asset on planet Earth. You've heard it here first. That's in less than a year, in my opinion. Less than 1 year. We're going to go from Bitcoin being number 10. Let me just show it to you. Right? I'll show you the numbers here. I think this is good to do. So if I show you the numbers here, you can see more clearly what I'm talking about. Boom. So here we go. Now, take a look. So Bitcoin right now, let me get this comment off. If I may. That's right. Wealth is a marathon, poor is a sprint mentality. That's right. All right. So look, right now, Bitcoin is the 10th most valuable thing on planet Earth. Guys, let this sink in, please. Please let this sink in. Bitcoin is the 10th most valuable thing in all the world. It has achieved this 10th spot in the shortest period of time. No other asset has achieved a $1 trillion valuation faster than Bitcoin. No other asset has achieved a $100 million network, a 100 million person or more network in this short period of time. No asset that has ever been known by humans has performed as rapidly and as powerfully as Bitcoin. I am telling you right now that as Bitcoin sits here in the number 10th spot as far as USD denominated value, right? We're just using the USD denominated value as a metric because Bitcoin's value is way over and beyond the US dollar's opinion of it. But I believe, with that being said, I believe that we go from 10 and we take out Apple here. You see this? Wait a minute. You see this? We take out and we sit, Bitcoin sits right here under gold in 2025. Now we're in the latter part of 2024. Do you understand what I'm saying? I am telling you that I believe with every fiber of my being, Bitcoin's number 2 next year. Do you understand? What does it need to get to number 2? 170,000. Do you understand that based on history, that's a stone's throw away for freaking Bitcoin? From 65 to 170, that is a stone's throw away. What's also, I think, worthy to be, what's also worthy to be understood here, guys, is that the year after the Bitcoin halving is the most exponential year of Bitcoin cycle, if history's any guide, and it is a guide, it's the only guide. So Bitcoin does well during a Bitcoin halving year, 2024. Bitcoin is the best performing asset on planet Earth this year, right? There is no other asset class that has risen more than Bitcoin this year. So it's number 1. So yes, the halving year, 2024, is usually a very good year, but it pales in comparison to the year after the halving. And this theme of after is something that I always want you to understand. It is the buying by the BlackRocks and the Fidelities and the MicroStrategies and Oliver Velez now has little effect. Later, the effect is huge. All right? The halving 2024, good. Halving hasn't the effect not so big. Decent, not so big. But later, 2025, the effect of the halving is explosive. This short-term mindset that the halving should cause something in Bitcoin now is wrong. The mindset that the ETFs gobbling up Bitcoin now should have an effect on Bitcoin now. No, that's novice. That's wrong. It's later. It's always later. Always. Do you understand? It's never now. It's always later. And so the halving that we experienced in April 19th specifically, 2024, next year, you're going to see how powerful that halving was. The buying that you see by the ETFs and the adoption by the BNY Mellons and so forth and so on. This accumulation that you see next year, OMG. So what I'm telling you, all the stars and all the planets are being aligned to catapult Bitcoin to position number 2. Now there's not a zero possibility. It's not zero possibility that it goes all the way to number 1. But it's not zero, but I'd say the odds aren't tremendous. Where I do believe the odds are better than 50-50. Much better is that we go to number 2 under gold, that we take out every company, we take out every other asset on planet Earth except gold next year. Now, so let's envision Bitcoin sitting at number 2. All right. It's taken out 170. Let's say it's trading at 250 250,000 or whatever. It's sitting there at number 2, $250,000 of Bitcoin. That's next year. And some of you are going to sell. I know this. And my question to you is, sell for what? What do you sell the item here for? Do you sell it for, what do you sell the item here for? Do you sell it for this one? Do you sell it for this one? Do you sell it for dollars that go down in value every second that you hold them? Like, what do you sell this for? What do you sell the hardest money the human race has ever experienced? Hard meaning hard to produce more. Golds and real estate were the hardest until this year, when Bitcoin stock to flow ratio surpassed gold and real estate and sits at around 118 now. Real estate stock to flow this is debatable, but it's said that real estate stock to flow is something like 100. So it would take 100 years. That's what that stock to flow number means. If real estate's stock to flow is 100, it means that it would take roughly 100 years to double all the supply of real estate on planet Earth. All right. Gold's stock to flow is close to 60, which means that it would take 60 years to double the supply of all the gold on Earth, all the gold above ground, 60 years. Well, Bitcoin stock to flow as of April 19th, it catapulted Bitcoin stock to flow to 118, which is saying that it would take 118 years to double the supply. But we know that metric doesn't even really apply to Bitcoin, because it is impossible to double the supply of Bitcoin. You can't have an effect on Bitcoin. Bitcoin cannot expand its supply. Its supply is inelastic, making it vastly different from anything else human beings have ever experienced on planet Earth before. Everything else's supply can be expanded by man. Think about it. Everything in life, you can expand your life potentially if you treat your body correctly. You can expand that. You can potentially increase the number of years on your life. It is said that every 1 hour of exercise adds 3 hours additionally to your lifespan, barring any black swan events in your life. But every 1 hour of exercise increases your lifespan by 3 hours. So think about that. Everything can be expanded. The gold supply is expanded every day. Everything on Earth, everything that man has ever come in contact with, man can expand. The first thing that humans have ever come in contact with that is impossible to expand is Bitcoin, making it very, very unique. And it locks in the characteristic that its value will rise forever. So when you hear Michael Saylor says it's going up forever, Laura, that is not just a meme. That is a mathematical fact. Do you understand? That it is a mathematical fact that the Bitcoin that you hold now will reward you for the rest of your life. And if you pass it on beyond your life, that it will never stop increasing you. It will never stop rising in value. It will never stop making you wealthier, bigger, more powerful, more independent, more free every 4 years of your life. This is a mathematical certainty. Why? Because its supply cannot by man be expanded, be altered, be halted, be stolen, be confiscated, be deflated, be inflated away. It's the only thing that man can't fuck up. It's the only thing that men and organizations and countries can't touch, influence, or impact in any way. It's the first thing that the human race has ever held dear that can't be fucked with. Do you understand? And so, because of this, its value will rise forever. Why? We've talked about this before. Because demand for hardness will never slow down, ever. The demand for what is scarce, the demand for what is hard, never stops being demanded, ever. That's number one. Whatever's scarce, whatever it is that's built into our DNA, the human race just adores or values scarcity. All right? And so the demand for Bitcoin will never stop increasing, ever. Not in your lifetime, not in my lifetime, not beyond our lifetimes, not in 100 years, not in 1,000, not in thousands of years. Gold is still desired 6,000 years later. What is scarce is never not demanded. And the demand rises over time forever for whatever's scarce. Now add that the fact that the supply, if demand is always going to rise forever, but supply is never going to rise, then you have the recipe for up forever, increase forever, improve forever. That is not a meme. That is just a simple mathematical fact. In addition to that, every day, we've talked about this, 250 net new human beings join this planet every day, every single day. We have roughly 8 billion people on planet Earth today. It is estimated that by the year 2050, there will be 10 billion people. Why? Because every day, 250,000 new human beings. There's actually more. I'm talking about net new, because we know every day human beings die. So if we subtract the average number of deaths per day from the average number of births per day, you get a net plus birth rate, 250,000 per day. 250,000 new internet users, 250,000 new users of the mathematical protocol. They're going to use numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 250,000 new communicators, 250,000 new Bitcoiners, 250,000 new smartphone operators, 250,000 new computer users. Do you understand this? Do you understand that there can never be a drop off in the demand for something of value when you have a net new human being birth rate of 250,000? The demand for Bitcoin will increase every hour, every day of your life. And think about this. It's number, guys, think about this, is crazy. It's number 10. It's the best performing asset on planet Earth. It's the best performing asset in the history of human mankind. It's the fastest asset to reach $1 trillion. It's the fastest asset to be adopted, reaching over 100 million users faster than any other network in the world. It has accomplished all of this. It has outperformed everything that we have ever held dear as a race in every single metric in virtually every single time frame. It is number one in every category. It is so number one that it can only compete with itself now. It's breaking its own records. It has accomplished all of this with 0.5% global adoption. Think about this. Think about this, people. Less than 1/2 of 1%, not 1%, 1/2 of 1%, less than 1/2 of 1% has adopted Bitcoin. And with that little tiny pinch of, like a pinch of salt, little tiny pinch of salt, Bitcoin became number 10 in the world in terms of value with that little tiny 0.5%, half of 1%, became the best performing asset on planet Earth in the history of mankind. The fastest asset to reach $1 trillion. The fastest adopted asset with 0.5% adoption. Where do you think this is going to be at 1% adoption? 3% of the human race. 5%. 10%. We're going to number 2 next year. And we'll still be under 1% adoption. And it will be in my opinion, will be the number 2 asset on planet Earth with less than 1% adoption. Do you see the future? And some people ask, well, Oliver, how do we know it's going to continue to be adopted? Listen, every discovery, and Bitcoin's a discovery, it is not an invention, it's a discovery. We've talked about this before. Every discovery is adopted forever. So fire is still being adopted, right? It is still being adopted today. When was the use for fire discovered? Electricity is still, wasn't an invention, it was discovered. But I move my hand so much, my watch thinks I'm running. Electricity. When were the human uses for electricity discovered? Some 600 years ago. There are people who still have no electricity. We're still adopting that electricity. We're still finding ways to utilize electricity. We're still finding ways to utilize fire. We're still finding ways when the number 0 was discovered. We're still finding ways that 0 is helping us discover more about the universe today. 0 is still being utilized and discovered in new uses for the number 0. The most important digit of all, actually. We're still finding ways that the internet is changing our lives more and more. Guys, nothing ever stops being adopted, ever. Why? Because there's new human beings. Cars are still being adopted. There's 250,000 new car users born every day. Commercial air flight travel. Still, after 100 and some odd years, 123, 4 years, whatever, commercial air flight came into existence 1901, 1903, right? Somewhere in there. You know that there's only 1 in every 4 human beings on Earth that have ever been on a plane. Do you understand the future adoption for air travel is still huge? The future growth? 1 in every 4 human beings. And it's 120 some odd years old. It's still being adopted. And all of these things have no supply cap. So imagine something where the demand will only grow, but the supply can never grow. And some people say, well, Oliver, the supply of Bitcoin does expand. It does increase every 10 minutes on average. Every day the Bitcoin network issues 450 new BTC per day. Isn't that true? Yes, but it doesn't create 450 new Bitcoin a day. Herein lies the rub. My dear Bitcoiners, you see, there's a difference between new supply and issuance, okay? So if I have $21 and that's all I have, and I issue $19, I still don't have any effect on the fact that I started with $21. If I issue $1 more, I have had no effect on the fact that I started with $21. Issuance is not supply expansion. It's availability expansion, but it's not supply. Availability goes like this, but supply is stagnant with Bitcoin. It started with 21 and it's issued 19.6 so far, but its supply has never changed and never will. It started with 21 million Bitcoin and it's ending with 21 million. It's staying at 21 million. It's the only inelastic, it's the only item, the only thing that has inelastic supply. And this is one of the key ingredients to the fact that since demand will grow, the human race will grow, demand will grow. Even if the human race didn't grow by numbers, we're only half of 1% of all 8 billion people having adopted it. But because humans, the number of humans on Earth grow, because we haven't even begun true adoption with Bitcoin yet, the demand for Bitcoin, like the demand for commercial air flight, like the demand for electricity, like the demand for fire, like the demand for the internet, like the demand for smartphones, like the demand for the number 0, like whatever, like the demand for the wheel, like the demand, you get the point. The demand will never stop, ever, but the supply will never move, ever, never. And this dynamic is what's behind the truth that it will never stop going up in value. Never. And so, what is worth you selling that? Sell it for what? What do you sell that for? You don't. What do you sell your future for? You don't. What do you sell your freedom for? You don't. What do you sell your independence for? You don't. What do you sell your generational wealth for? You don't. Poor people sell valuable things. The wealth mindset. Wealthy people, they accumulate valuable things. The poor are the sellers. The wealthy are the accumulators. It has always been and it will always be. You understand? And in a debt-based society, which we've had basically, and will probably always have to some extent, is that the wealthy don't sell, they borrow. The poor sell and thus become without. The wealthy never become without. They keep and borrow. They keep accumulating and borrow. They accumulate and borrow. They accumulate and borrow. They don't sell. Poor people sell and then they're without. That's why they're poor. Without is poor. And someone asked me earlier here today, I'll put the question up here. I answered, by the way. Oliver, I'm planning to sell 1/3 of my Bitcoin next year to get profits and reinvest back in 2026 to grow my bag. Good idea? I responded, no, I don't think that's a good idea at all. And I've addressed this on so many different occasions. There are people smarter than you, way better than you, we're wealthier than you, had higher IQs than you that have tried to do this, and they've all failed, all of them. There are people who sold at 30 cents because they bought at 6 cents. Remember that? Give me a second. This one, I'll show it to you. I'll bring it up for you. Take a look at this. I'll draw my point home here. Is that? I wish I kept my 1,700 BTC at that I bought at 6 cents instead of selling them at 30 cents. Now they're $8. This is invariably going to become anyone who sells the hardest asset, the hardest money, the most valuable thing on planet Earth. This will be your experience, guaranteed. Maybe in the short term, you'll feel like a hero, but eventually you'll feel like a freaking idiot. And let me just tell you this, not only will you feel like an idiot, ultimately, but Bitcoin will make you feel like an idiot. Not only will that be the case, you will live in a state of depression for the rest of your living days. I guarantee this. This is as certain as night follows every single day. You will live in a state of depression your whole life after you let this go and it does this to you, and it will. I promise you with everything I have that this will be your experience. And so you're just simply not that good. You're not going to sell the top, hold on to the money, all of it. 2 years later, pick off the exact bottom. You're not going to do it. You're not that special. I'm sorry. You're not going to do it. Even if you manage to grab the top, which you won't, you'll think 300,000 is the top and it'll go to 6. Even if you got lucky and you nail the top, you're going to give up half of it to taxes. So you already brought a 50% decline, a 40 to 50% bear market onto yourself just by selling. If you live in the Western world, you bring a tax-oriented bear market to the item anyway. So if your tax is 40%, at the end of the day, you've just brought a 40% bear market to an item that hasn't even yet fallen 40%. Does that make sense? But Oliver, my tax rate is 20%. Okay, so you brought a 20% bear market to an item that's not even down 20% yet. So you bring on a bear market to yourself. You wind up with less Bitcoin than you had, less of the rarest, scarcest, hardest asset. You have less now, all right? You also have less value because 20 to 40% goes to taxes. Right? Now, on top of that, you're gonna fuck up the money. You're gonna buy a vacation, get a new car, maybe even buy a house. Fine. But when it's time to put that back into Bitcoin, like your grand Disney movie plan is, you're not going to have it. You're not going to have the money available. First of all, you have less because of taxes. So you're not going to have the money when it's time to act. You're not even going to know when it's time to act. Let's not even discuss that. Bitcoin's going to be at 15,000 and you're still going to think it's going to 3,000. You're not going to know when to act. And if you get lucky enough to, you're not going to have the money 18 months later. Your wife won't let you keep the money sitting there waiting for a Bitcoin bottom. Are you kidding me? Your family's not going to let that money sit there. Life is going to hound you to use that money. You know what happens every time you come into money? All of a sudden, every single relative comes out of the freaking cracks in the sidewalk. You come into money, Everybody knows you. Life starts bearing on you. Reasons to use that money start popping up all over the place. And your beloved ones, the ones you break bread with every day, I promise you, they're getting to it. So this idea that, Oliver, I will sell a portion of my stack and at the top and I will wait for the bottom. I'll save all of that and wait for the bottom and pile it back in the bottom and I can get more Bitcoin this way. Yeah, right. In what worlds? Then you, only in your dream world, then you wake up and it's like, I've got less Bitcoin. You got Gregged. Everyone is going to get Gregged. You see his name, Greg Schoen? Everyone is going to get Gregged who tries this. I promise you. I'll go back to something I said earlier. If I can get you to just commit to, the smallest period is 4 years, one cycle. But if you truly want your children's children to remember your name, you will hold on for 4 cycles, not 4 years, one cycle, 4 of them. But Oliver, that's 12 years. I'll tell you, that's so long. It's 12 years, Oliver. I'll tell you a story. All right. I've told this story many times, so I'm sorry if you've heard it before. You're just going to have to bear with me again. My mother decided one Thanksgiving dinner, all of our family was together. My mother decided on this Thanksgiving to announce to the family that she was going to go back to school to get her college degree. This was one of her life dreams. Life intervened. She was never able to get a college degree. She announced this at 51 years old. Okay. Instantly, my mother's sisters, 2 of them, they began to laugh. I was there. They laughed at my mother. And they said, do you understand that if you go back to school now, you'll be 55 years old when you finish? And so they considered that ridiculous. My mother, who's always been known for just pure wisdom that splits you right between the eye, but innocently, like she has this ability to be wise without knowing she's wise. It's kind of the cutest thing. But I remember my mother responding and saying, almost in a confused way, but aren't I going to be 55 in 4 years anyway? Why not just be 55 with a college degree, then just be 55 without one? Silence on the part of everyone there, including my 2 aunts. I'm going to be 55 anyway. Why not be 55 with the degree, then be 55 without it? 12 years is coming anyway, people. Why not have your entire bloodline, children not even born yet that will bear your name? Why not have generational wealth? Why not let 12 years come and have generational wealth? Then have 12 years come and it just come without generational wealth. I am telling you that this will probably occur before 12 years. But I know that if you were to give Bitcoin just 12 years, 4 cycles, your children's children will remember your name. that your entire bloodline, that that families from your kids and their kids and their kids and their kids will be set for the rest of their entire future lives. That we're talking about affecting your entire bloodline. And so this poor man's mindset, the poor man's mindset stays in a small window. But I need it now, Oliver. I've got to put food on the table now, Oliver. That's why. You're still worrying about where your next meal is coming from because you stay in the little tiny micro time frame. Because you're worrying about how you're going to pay your rent next month, because you stay in the little tiny little short-term mindset. You don't think 4 cycles from now, 12 years from now, or minimum 4 years. Let me give Bitcoin 4 years. It might grab you if you give it 4 years. It's definitely going to grab you if you give it 4 cycles. All right. Are you picking up what I'm laying down, people? How many people are here? There's almost 1,700 people here. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? I hope so. High time preference thinkers, that is true. So, guys, maybe I'll end on this note. I've been talking for an hour and 21 minutes now. But maybe I will end on this note. This sort of leads me to something that I've mentioned before, but it's worth mentioning again now. I'm often asked, Oliver, is it possible to have too much Bitcoin? And after giving that some thought, I realize that the answer is yes. It is possible to have too much. And here's why I believe that. If the level of Bitcoin that you have makes you an impulse seller, you have too much. If it makes you constantly nervous, you have too much. Sell down to the no nervous level. Give it to me. I'll buy it from you. All right? If it makes you a miserable individual to be around because you can't stop checking the freaking USD denominated price, the USD is showing you its picture and you're falling for it, and it makes you miserable every second of your life, you're just a miserable human being, you've got too much. If you have made the people that you care about the most in your life miserable because of Bitcoin, you've got too much. If you are forcing your children or your significant other to live a life that they never signed up for just because you want to be a Bitcoiner, you've got too much. If you're making them sacrifice too much, you've got too much. So it's possible. If it makes you stupid, you've got too much. It makes you feel like I've got to sell this, you've got too much. There is an amount that you can get to that doesn't affect your family, doesn't make them have to live in their living room with no furniture and eat food eat pork and beans out of a can. I mean, you've got to live too, right? There's an amount that won't have you worried about what the US dollar says about the rarest, scarcest asset on earth. I don't care about that, what that weak shit says about Bitcoin. I don't care. And you can get this amount, and this amount might change as your conviction grows, Maybe you can get more without being a freaking idiot, without being freaking miserable, depressed, putting your family through hell. All right. There's that right number, but it could potentially over time change and go up. I used to not believe that you could have too much, but yes, you can have too much. I've come in contact with people who are absolutely miserable, and that's not what Bitcoin's supposed to be doing for you. Bitcoin is hope. Bitcoin is freedom. Shouldn't be making you a miserable human being. We have enough miserable, depressed human beings on this planet without you freaking adding to that number. So find the right number that's right for you. All right? As long as it's not zero, that is never right. As long as it's not zero, that is never right. Boom. Jesus, Oliver, slow your roll. My family's okay. They'll be fine on pork and beans and franks. Okay. As long as they like pork and beans and franks, that's okay. All right. I kept a few ounces of gold. It just makes me feel good to have it just in case. Help me to hold on to BTC more. I like that. I've done actually the same, guys. I sold almost all of my gold, which I had been accumulating my entire adult life, actually, in late 2020. And I converted every single ounce to basically Bitcoin, but I did hold on to a small amount. And it's largely for nostalgia. As much as I poke fun of gold now in comparison to Bitcoin, just to sort of rattle the gold bugs, because I was a gold bug most of my life, and I know how they think, and I know what riles them up, and I like to do that. I can never deny the fact that there is something magical about holding $500,000 of wealth in your hands. Like, that's not paper. Like, you can hold that in paper, but it's not the same. There's something that resonates with the soul. It's a physical property that I think vibrates with something very primal in us. And that is something that gold can and does deliver. If you were to put $500,000 in bills on a floor and $500,000 in gold on a floor and put a baby who crawls, guess where they're going to naturally crawl to? The paper or the gold? They're going to crawl to the gold. There's something innate in our DNA that resonates with something real, that has these real properties to it. Bitcoin goes higher than the physical, and therefore will become and always be more valuable than these physical properties that we are also connected to. In our lives today, the things that we will die for cannot be touched, smelled, tasted, or even seen. The things that we hold the dearest today are not physical. They used to be, but today, no. Today, we honor love above all. And show me where love is. Show me, how can a baby I put on the floor crawl to where love is? Love is not physical, but we will die for it. We will go to war for it. We will sacrifice our lives for love. Justice, peace, honor, honesty. These are things that are the most valuable things in our life. Truthfulness. These are things that we hold dear above everything. And Bitcoin belongs to that reality, that higher, more ethereal reality. Our gods that we used to worship were all physical, from statues to stones to the sun, the wind, the rain. And today, for most people, their God is not physical, cannot be seen, touched, felt, smelt, or tasted in the real physical sense. And in this state, it is more almighty, more powerful, more omnipresent. More omnipotent. You follow what I'm saying? Value moved from being physical to being higher, more omnipresent, more omnipotent. And that value is now Bitcoin. All right, guys. That's it. I appreciate you guys. Wow, 1,777. Crazy. Crazy. I love it, guys. I appreciate it. I promised a long time ago that every time I'm given I'm afforded the privilege, the opportunity to speak to you in front of a mic, in front of a live audience, at a podium, whatever, I do my best to try to share something that I think will have value forever, like for the rest of your life. I made that vow over 30 years ago. I hope I've done that here today. I hope that something that I shared resonated with you today, something that you can take with you and be with you forever, something that might germinate and produce a yield for you for the rest of your living days. I hope I've done that. But if I haven't, I promise I'll get better every single time. All right, guys. Ciao for now. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And, go to work. Stack harder. Boom. Boom. All right, guys. Ciao.
My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!